Hello, everyone. We'll be taking a look at Israel, Ukraine, and other conflicts of interest. As of this recording, it is November 8th, 2023. So, starting off here, looking at the northern border of Israel with Lebanon, we can see there is a decent amount of bombings by Israel going on out here. And as we can see right here, Israeli fighter jets bomb Hezbollah infrastructure in Lebanon. So, the reason why I think that there is so much now mostly is because, the Gaza assault is essentially in full swing, and, Israel would not want to be caught off guard again. I guess, in terms of now that so much of their forces is concentrated, in Gaza itself, and perhaps they wouldn't be as ready, even though I believe that they seem to be apparently telegraphing that they are quite ready for any kind of assault by Hezbollah. Even though we know that, as we talked about, the Hezbollah leader talking about and giving a speech, a speech that was quite, I guess, disappointing by many people since he said a whole lot of nothing. But anyways, what I believe why also there are so many bombings by Israel is just, Israel is essentially saying to Hezbollah, you don't want the smoke. So, yeah, that's why we're seeing such an uptick, at least in terms of bombings by Israel. And looking at the West Bank, we can see there are still some clashes and whatnot going around out there. But of course, the main course over here being Gaza Strip, we can see that it appears they are pushing further into the heart of Gaza and closer into Jabalia and Beit Lahia over here. And we can see as well, they seem to be at least pushing further into Ashati refugee camp over here, and of course, heavy clashes being reported over here. More clashes going on. So, and of course, bombings in southern Gaza as well. So, just in general, what we can see is that um, yeah, Israeli forces indeed are moving, and they are moving slowly. Though, I mean, given the sheer compactness of Gaza City, you can imagine that it would be difficult for any military to try and weed out who's a terrorist and where the terrorists are in this area. So yeah, that's all I really want to talk about here. So a quick story here by Reuters, just talking about the Hamas tunnels underneath Gaza. So something that I saw that was interesting. So as we can see, Israel's military, the labyrinth that's underneath Gaza, the northern Gaza operation may take months to complete in terms of, trying to clear out the extent of tunnels that are going on underneath Gaza. So um, it's it's bleak in terms of the fact that, you would hope that such a violent and horrifying conflict would end as soon as possible. But the fact that, you know, um, that this area is seemingly going to suffer for many more months, uh, uh, being quoted by Israeli sources. So, you know, just I was hoping, at least when I first saw this conflict, going down, looking in the past, between, uh it's just going to be another Israeli Gaza spat. They shoot a few missiles, Israel shoots them down, and then, whatever. But upon realizing the actual scale of it, this is serious, right? This is some serious, actual, real warfare that we are watching unfold right before our eyes. So, uh, just talking more about, hoping for a ceasefire, even though we have seen that there have been not necessarily ceasefires, but I believe they're called humanitarian pauses in Gaza to ensure that people who are in northern Gaza will evacuate to southern Gaza. I believe they have it like along certain roadways for like 4 or 5 hours at a time per day. So, that's something. But the fact that this may take months, and that's I feel like saying that this will take months is a little bit generous. That's just like hopeful. So, um, yeah. Anyways, just in terms of this conflict, this may drag on for a lot longer than we may have initially thought. All right, now pivoting over to Ukraine really quick. There's only really one update out here, and of course, guess what direction it's going to be in? In the Avdiivka direction. So as we can see over here, it's listing as Stepova. We can see Russian forces seemingly moving across this field over here, these couple fields over here, and moving along this roadway down here. And as we can see as well, Russian forces perhaps either them being clarified or retreating slightly over here away from Avdiivka. But yeah, that's all that was updated in terms of the map. All right, now taking a look at this clip here, we can see that I'll let it play here since nothing crazy happens. These are just IDF forces looking and finding Hamas tunnels that are underneath Gaza, wherever they may pop up. Um, and so here, this guy is pointing to this is an IDF officer, and he is pointing to what appears to be, electrical apparatuses for air filters to supply, air, oxygen to the tunnel networks underneath because, the tunnels are so long and so extensive that they just don't have their own airflow. So they need this airflow in order to function, um, which is allegedly why Israel was cutting off electricity to um, Gaza. But anyways, I'll let it keep playing here. We might skip around a little bit through it, but I just wanted to talk about that. Given these tunnel networks that literally need to either be dug up or found, and they these tunnel networks very well may be just remade or redug out in the future, right? So we'll just look through here, just taking a quick glance at what these look like, right? These are deep and they go long. So just in general of what these tunnel networks mean for the war, it's going to be difficult for Israel if they really truly want to completely eliminate Hamas top to bottom. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just Gaza with Hamas is going to be a tough nut to crack. All right, now looking at some of the combat that's being reported out here, of course, a decent amount of shelling being reported, and 57 combat engagements, which is a decent amount more than what we've seen the past couple days um, out here. So in terms of perhaps Russia is trying to consolidate as much land as they can before winter truly sets in, or maybe I mean I would think that they would try to pivot more to the defense considering what's going on in the Dnieper River area. But from what I've heard is that there are only about 300 Ukrainian soldiers in that area, so maybe they aren't really as concerned um, as one would think, but who knows? So an article here by the BBC, and all it really talks about is just Ukraine trying to join the EU, and of course it's hard given that they are currently embroiled in a very large war. But they're also talking about Moldova and Georgia possibly becoming candidates if they reform, also like Ukraine here, which as they say European Commission reports that they recommend Ukraine to reform the way constitutional judges are selected, tougher action against corruption and money laundering, and new laws to curb influence of oligarchs. So, you know, when talking about the fall of the Soviet Union and, in terms of post-Soviet states, Russia, of course, is, the first country you think that uh, fell to this, whole ploy of oligarchy and corruption and money laundering, but they weren't the only one who came out of that came out of the fall of the Soviet Union like that. The same thing happened to Ukraine. As we can see, Ukraine has its own oligarchs and corruption and money laundering. How bad is it really? It's pretty corrupt, but from what I understand, they're trying to at least move in the right direction, especially if they want to join the EU. They're really gonna have to clean up their act, um, especially in terms of wanting to win this war, clean up their act, and join the EU. It's 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 definitely going to be hard for them to do all of those things at once, but who really knows how this war is going to turn out. Um, what well, a lot of people are saying that's going to pretty much be a North and South Korea. Pretty much, it's just going to be they'll come to a ceasefire and then a ceasefire, and it'll just be a ceasefire that will kind of freeze over for however long. But you know a lot of people are also very hopeful for Ukraine, and a lot of people just, see Russia as, the big country and Ukraine as the little country, and they think that, maybe it's just a matter of time until Russia just completely picks apart Ukraine. But, you know, those are all possibilities. Those are all possibilities in this war. So just a quick clip here that I wanted to show. This is the front line from what I understand, but there's no firing, and I'm not going to show too much of it. But I'll let it play for a couple seconds here just to show you what it looks like, what a lot of the fighting is out there, and that we know, Ukraine is a very flat country, and a lot of it is it's the south of Ukraine is pretty much a breadbasket, which is why Russia would probably be inclined to take it. Um, so a lot of what that they're fighting over were farming fields, as we can see, and these are windbreaks to separate these fields. At least they were. So yeah, this is essentially just in terms of what it looks like to be a soldier out here. This is pretty much what you're going to be looking at this entire time. Broad fields and blown out trees. So a quick story here that I want to talk about in terms of Sudan, since we haven't talked about it in a little bit. So they agree on humanitarian aid, but the peace talks that, as we know, were in Saudi Arabia and Jeddah, fall short of a ceasefire. So what this article pretty much just talks about is that previous negotiations that they had had when the conversation first started or the conflict first started, they were made humanitarian um, truces and whatnot, but the truces were violated, and important and egregious violations of the agreement had initially happened when it first started. So apparently, the ceasefire, the proposition of a ceasefire was not necessarily um, uh, optimistic. But I guess they tried, and yet still they came short of it. So that's essentially what's happening in Sudan right now. So um, people are still, fighting out there. The RSF and Sudanese armed forces. Yeah, as we can see, and something interesting. Antony Blinken saying that warning, there's an imminent and large-scale attack on North Darfur's capital. So it's just interesting to see that he's blatantly warning about this large scale attack. Mostly, I believe, because the people who are seeking refuge there from the war and all the fighting. But anyways, that's I just wanted to check up on this conflict and let you guys know. And of course, we can't talk about these conflicts without talking about Myanmar. So of course, more uh, border towns between China are being taken by these rebel groups, from what it looks like. So, of course, the offensive that's been happening for the past, couple weeks, that we've been talking about pretty much the entire time, of the Shan State. So, Operation 1027 is what it's been called. So, just in terms of this, it's not saying anything we don't really already know too much about. So, yeah, it's just been rapid progress, and as we can see, just these rebels seizing equipment and towns from what we can see. So just in general about this conflict as of right now. Um, y- I do think, and from what I've seen, although not too much footage has come out from today. Nothing that I thought I could show or wanted to show. Um, but like I said, these rebels seem to be at least progressing in some ways. But we'll see how it turns out. All right, well, that's all I really wanted to show for today. If you have any questions, concerns, leave a comment below. Anything you want me to talk about or anything else, just in general, uh, be sure to just let me know. So, other than that, thanks for watching.